Welcome to Second Opinion, the reviews show here on the Nexus. Today, Ian Arbuck and Betsy Dadabo will be sharing their experiences with the Pebble Time and Pebble Time round. Find the show notes for this episode at thenexus.tv/SO7. So, this is the first smartwatch that I've ever owned, but you owned one before this, right?
Yes, but it was the Pebble Classic.
Right, yep. So you're going to have a bit more perspective on like how things changed from the first generation to the second generation. And then we can talk about the second generation primarily, and then we'll finish off with talking about what the third generation is going to be like, because they are just finishing up their Kickstarter as we record this for the Pebble 2 and Pebble Time 2, which is really their third generation of Pebble watches, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah.
And it'll be kind of interesting as well because we both have different versions of the time. Though they have like the same internal capabilities, just like in a different case, essentially.
Right.
Okay, so first off, kind of high level stuff. What are these Pebbles? So the Pebble is a third-party smartwatch compatible with both Android and iOS that kind of doesn't really play in the same ballpark as most of the other smartwatches are. They're not trying to have like a touch screen and a full LCD screen and everything. They've got traditional just 4 buttons on the sides of the watch for interaction, and it's got an e-ink display. And the advantage of that, of course, is that they last a lot longer on battery life. So most of the other smartwatches last a day or two at most, and that's pretty generous, I think, most of the time. But these ones, the Pebble was, they claim 7 days of battery life. What was the claim for the Pebble round? Pebble Time round?
2 days.
2 days.
Which is fairly accurate.
Okay, cool. Mine was, I don't get quite 7 days on mine. I get about 5 usually. The lowest that I've gotten was like 2 to 3 when I was using it a lot. And I don't know, I guess there were some like background apps that were running a lot during that time for some reason. But it's a little bit inconsistent, but usually like 5 days.
It took some tweaking on my part too to make sure I got a full 2 days worth of battery life. Because its default settings do seem to take up more battery.
So what kinds of settings were you able to change to maximize that?
I think one of them was the display sensitivity.
Oh, so like how much shaking it takes to get the backlight on?
Right. Which is also useful because if you wear it while you sleep, it sometimes comes on when you're rolling over and you wake yourself up.
And there's this bright light on the ceiling and you're like, where did that come from?
I really wish it understood more of that. Like when I shake it, I only sometimes want to. Like, why doesn't it know?
I've noticed that like when I'm biking around camp, my arms are shaking a lot because I'm on gravel, and so my like wrist is moving a lot, and it's constantly on the backlight when I'm biking. I'll have to go and look at that setting, yeah. So the original Pebble was black and white screen, and did you have the Pebble before they came out with the Time OS?
I think it was, yes, I did. So it was maybe 6 months before it came out.
Okay.
Or that's how long it took for it to upgrade to the Time OS on my old Pebble.
So what were the big changes between the like classic OS and the Time OS?
Definitely the concept between trying to have an interface that was more based on time rather than app. So when you press the up and down button on the old Time watch, it would switch between apps.
Oh, okay.
And this new one switches between sort of what's going on next in your life.
Mm-hmm. And when you go down, you go future, and when you go up, you go into the past.
Right.
Yeah. And that was actually the reason that that the Pebble Time piqued my interest when they were first announcing it. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I want to be able to look at a timeline of things when I'm looking at my watch, because that's what watches are for.
Right.
And I love that they built in, an API for other apps when you install them to put things into the timeline that might be important to you. So like in my ideal world, it would be showing me events like my Google reminders and things like, obviously calendar events are in there. That's the most basic, most obvious one. But other things like if I don't know, if somebody's got like a birthday coming up, that would be pretty useful. They talk a lot about like sports scores, but unfortunately I'm not interested in sports, so I don't see those. Yeah. Weather gets put in there. That's an obvious one. One of the apps that I installed, Battery Plus, it doesn't actually really help with the battery life. In fact, it actually probably is detrimental because it is running in the background. But whenever I charge the whenever I charge the watch, it like kind of takes what your expected battery usage is and puts a pin in the timeline for when you're going to need to charge it, which is pretty nice. Even though by default the operating system says like, oh, hey, you're probably going to need to charge it tonight.
Right.
This one tells me exactly when in the wee hours of the morning it's going to run out of charge.
Right. Though I'd have to say the powered by tonight, because that's what it says when it's running low on battery. Since it's e-ink, it gets stuck on that once it dies. So it'll say powered by tonight,
That's
even though
funny.
It's completely dead.
Mm-hmm. But you can't.
Random.
I mean, you can leave that screen.
Yeah. Well, when it's dead, no, it just stays on that until you plug it in.
Mm-hmm.
I just got excited because I found my Pebble time today, and I was like, "Oh, it's still on." Oh no, it's dead.
And I love that it like when it gets critically low, it switches from like your default watch face to a generic one that just like has the time, and then it has like a little picture of a plugin to tell you like you need to charge this thing. And I think it disables all the apps as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a super low power mode, and it probably will last quite a while.
Right. It prioritizes being a watch over other things.
Mm-hmm. Which is definitely good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely need to do more exploring with the Pebble, to find the best things for it, such as like there's probably some sort of if then that service that will take Google reminders and things like that and insert them into the timeline, make them accessible from my watch, and vice versa. Like I really want to be able to like dictate to the watch and have a reminder get added to my Google reminders, but currently I don't have a system for that.
Yeah, I don't either, and I wish I did because I use Google Keep, and it has the ability to set time stamps on it. Right. So I wish I could
to bring notes up
at a certain time. So I don't even think I have that enabled, although it would make a lot of sense for that sort of notification to come up in the watch time.
And that's one of the disadvantages that the sacrifices that we made knowingly when we got a Pebble instead of getting Android Wear. But I figured when I found it for $90 on sale, I was like, I could either get this that is going to do about 90% of the things that any smartwatch would do for me, or I could get an Android smartwatch and I wouldn't settle for just any Android Wear. I would get like the one that I want, probably a Moto 360 of some sort, and then I'd be spending, $200 or $300 on it. So
yeah, that was one nice thing. So I think I got my other Pebble watch for about $70, so I didn't feel as bad when a year later I bought another one.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't as much of an investment, whereas the Moto 360, which I was looking at, or the Asus Zen watch. Mm-hmm. Either one of those I was looking at, but then, I feel like I'd have to keep it for a few years, whereas this one I can upgrade as they become smarter.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say right now whether I'm going to want to upgrade this thing in a while, but like at the moment I don't feel like I will. I feel like I'll be pretty satisfied with this thing. Kind of the way that I was satisfied with my Chromebook for a really long time. I got like a bare bones Chromebook, and it still does exactly the same things as it did 3 years ago when I got it, and I'm still happy with that.
Yeah. I think my upgrade was probably more looks based, to be honest. And it was nice to have it. It's nice to have it in color, and as a girl wearing a smartwatch, a lot of them are big and bulky, and that one used to catch on things, so I don't mind the upgrade, because this one is it looks more like a watch.
Yeah, and especially like the original Pebble had, you had the black the black bezel one, but like if you got like the red plastic one, it's like very obvious. This thing looks like a toy that's strapped to your wrist.
This is Generation 1.
Yep.
Screaming sad, yeah.
And you got the round, which is obviously like meant to look more like a watch and everything because
Right.
it's round. But like even the Pebble Time, the square one looks much more kind of subdued because it's not like shiny plastic, it's the matte plastic.
Yeah.
And speaking of the matte plastic, actually, like if you take a look around the edge of my watch, you can tell kind of where it has banged against things and gotten scuffed up. And most of those scuff marks initially looked like awful. I was like, oh no, that's gonna stay there forever and it's gonna look awful forever. But the scuff marks fade over time, which is really nice. So they don't distract me when I'm looking at my watch.
Yeah, the Pebble Time round so far seems pretty damage proof, except for the watch band, which is really crappy leather. It's like the baloney of leather. It's already coming apart, and it does not look great. So,
yeah, I'm pretty happy with the rubbery one that came with the Pebble Time because I'm at camp, and like any canvas or leather or whatever, like it would just get like any of them will get sweaty. But the rubber one, I can just like rinse it off, and it's exactly the same as it was before.
This is depressingly gross looking at this point.
I have heard that speaking of bands, that they support like third party like special bands that can do other things like add sensors to it. I haven't felt the need to look into that because I mean I just feel like that's spending more money.
Yeah, same here.
But I guess I'm probably not using my imagination enough. I'm sure that there's something that would really catch my eye, and then I would be like, that's perfect. I need that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something that I already am complaining about the Pebble watch, that there's a fix out and I just haven't looked.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. The color screen is a big plus. Like I can't imagine getting this thing and not having a color screen. Especially because like the watch face that I chose, it shows like the weather up above the time. And if it was just like a black and white granular image of a sun, it'd be much less. It would mean a lot less to me. Like the sun, the yellow shiny sun is like, yay, it's sunny out.
I dorkily really like to be able to change you can change each digit to be a different color.
Oh.
So you can coordinate your watch face with your outfit.
Nice.
And, yes, I dorkily like to change it every once in a while.
So let's talk about some of the watch faces. I definitely went with one that was, I mean, originally out of like the 3 or 4 that come pre-installed on it, I was going to go with the really subdued like black background with just blue numbers. Because I was like that, I mean, I don't want it to like call a lot of attention to itself and be less useful. Because there was like the really cool looking material one, but it sort of covers up the numbers a little bit, and it only shows you the time in minutes. It doesn't tell you the date. It doesn't tell you anything else. Whereas the watch face that I found, which is called Real Weather, it gives you an image of like what the weather's like outside. It gives you the time. It has a 1 pixel high bar across the screen that tells you how much battery life is left on the watch, which is really, really nice because otherwise you have to go all the way up to like the settings page to see the battery life. It tells me the date, and then it tells me the temperature in degrees. So that's like, it's a lot of information all just on one watch face. But like it does it without looking terrible.
Yeah, I definitely chose a more aesthetically pleasing one, but it tells me the battery in little colored dots.
Okay.
Along the side, and then it's got the day of the week, which is good for me. I'm a little bit of an airhead, so I can just glance at my watch and say, oh yeah, it's Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the date is instead of the dots in between the numbers.
Whoa.
So
let me see that thing.
So it says Tuesday the 28th.
Oh wow.
In between 7 and 58.
And then those dots along the left side, that was the battery level?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So it's very elegant, I think.
And
streamlined.
It looks like it takes advantage of the fact that that's a circular screen instead of a square screen, right?
I think so. I had the same watch face on my other watch. It's called Taller, and the numerals are just taller, but it looks nice on the round one as well.
Okay. Have you noticed in the like App Store that whether they tell you whether they're for the round screener for a square screen?
I think I really noticed that. I just liked it, and then it just has more features on the time round than it did.
Oh, okay.
So you can still put it on the old Pebble. It just doesn't do as much because it's not in color or
Okay.
doesn't have the battery on the old Pebble. So they just updated it.
Cool. That's interesting. I mean, it has the battery on the new one, but not the old one. So is there like just not an API on the old one for them to get the?
Sure,
Pebble?
or because it was square and smaller.
Maybe.
They just kind of wanted it to be just.
Oh, is there a
simple.
resolution difference between the two screens? Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about what like the primary function of a smartwatch is, which is notifications. And that's, when I got the Pebble time, that was exactly what I knew it was going to be for, was showing me my notifications on my wrist. So I'm really digging it because it's just like having Push Bullet on my wrist, which and Push Bullet is exactly what I'm used to interacting with, right? I don't know how, like, obviously on Android it's very, very useful because you can perform any of the actions that the notification has as buttons in it. I don't know if it would be less useful on iOS because I'm not familiar with iOS, so I don't know, like, could you reply to an email?
I'm not sure.
On iOS.
I don't know anyone with a Pebble and iOS. I only know more people with Pebbles and Androids. Let's face it, those are two nerdier.
That's true. I was totally considering trying it out, like pairing it up with my school iPad just to try it out on iOS, but I was like, nah, that's doing too much. Sorry, listeners. I love that for most of the major apps, they have like the app's icon that like appears and kind of bounces and has a little animation. And like it's really cool because they handcrafted each of those like individually. But of course, the disadvantage is that if you have an app that is less well known, like I use Phoenix for Twitter, so it doesn't have an icon for Phoenix. So it just has like a little bell icon that shows up for those ones. But I appreciate the handcrafted like specialization that they did for most of the major apps.
Yeah, I love it for notifications. I've gotten really used to be able to, instead of having to take out my phone, just glance at it to see if it's something I need to take care of right away. And plus, I can leave my phone charged in the other room and still kind of get notifications, and it's not a big deal. Third-party applications, I'd say your mileage may vary on those as to how well they'll work. It's not. I don't think it's a curated app store, really.
No, and I think like no matter what app it's from, it will at least show the notification on the watch.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether you can perform extra actions on it is kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, because I have the Philips Hue lights, and there's about 3 apps on there, third-party apps that are supposed to help you control your lights from your watch. And I think only one of them really worked and paired. So it's one of those things. You kind of do have to, like, if you want to use it beyond notifications and telling time, then you may have to be willing to mess around with things. Just try things out.
Or admit that you might have to give up a few cool things on your watch.
Yeah, like the Roku remote no longer works.
Oh.
Another thing I lose frequently, my Roku remote, and on my old Pebble, it had an app. So I could use my watch as a Roku remote, but I can't on the new Pebble round.
I do love how well it works for because I have a Nexus player plugged into our TV, and I have a Chromecast audio plugged into some speakers in our kitchen. And so if I'm just like playing something like a podcast on my phone through the speakers in the kitchen, I love like how well it works as a remote that goes through the phone to the speakers. It's like it's three steps removed. So earlier today, like I was washing dishes in the kitchen, listening to the stuff on the speakers in that room, but my phone was in the other room in the living room charging, and I was controlling the volume and skipping and stuff from my wrist. And I'm like, it's the future.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know, that's one thing I really love about technology that's kind of letting your old stuff skip a generation. So, and like Chromecast audio, you can use an old speaker set with it. And the Philips Hue light bulbs, I just have those plugged into my old lamps. It's just kind of cool right now, and then I can control that from my watch. So I feel like it's coming together.
And it's nice when everybody like has all of those ways to tie into other systems. So they can all create stuff that then is either a remote or a, receiver for multiple different things, such as fitness tracking. Segue. So you probably shouldn't do fitness tracking on a Segway because you're not actually being fit.
That's true.
But so the Pebble, I wasn't expecting sleep tracking when I got it.
Yeah.
I was like, obviously steps. It can be a pedometer, easy peasy. But I was surprised when it was like, hey, is getting more sleep a goal of yours? And I'm like,
sure.
Always.
Yeah.
Sleep is my favorite activity. Like, that's my favorite state of being, is sleeping. Unfortunately, I hate wearing the thing to bed, so I don't get sleep tracking.
Have you tried just putting it on your mattress?
Would that work?
I think so, because you roll over and...
I guess.
Because that's how the phones work.
Phones can do sleep tracking?
Yeah, there are apps for that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, usually there's the app I use for my alarm clock Sleep as Android. It has this thing with sleep tracking. Before I got the watch, you just put it on your mattress, and it was pretty accurate.
Huh.
Like, we could tell. I used to live with someone who went to bed a lot earlier and woke up a lot earlier, and I could tell when she got up, even though I wasn't really awake. The app would be like, "Oh, you were moving around a lot."
Oh.
And then I'd be like, "Hey, were you getting up like at 5 a.m.?" She's like, "Yeah." So they work.
So yeah. But then interference, right?
Yeah. Sorry, long story. Anyway.
I do, and I guess the advantage of those actually is that if you set your alarm on the Pebble instead of setting alarm through your phone, is that it can strategically give you the alarm when you're in light sleep instead of in heavy sleep.
Yeah.
Within a given time frame, so that you don't just absolutely oversleep. Right. And I love that, like, all of the data that it collects, it just forwards on to whatever fitness tracking app you use in the rest of your life. So obviously, being the Google fanboy that I am, I use Google Fit. And normally, like, Google Fit doesn't consider sleep tracking. That's not a thing that it does at its core, but like, it gets the sleep data from the Pebble and puts that into the day, which is kind of cool.
I never noticed that. The Google Fit thing just never really worked that well with the Pebble for me for some reason, but I didn't really make a huge effort with it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been broken up if it hadn't worked for me, because like, my phone works just fine as a fitness tracker. Actually, even slightly better, I think, because I do a lot of biking, and it's really hard for a device on my wrist to detect when I'm biking. Whereas with my phone, it moves up and down with my leg as I'm biking, and it also has the GPS to detect how fast I'm going.
Yeah.
So it can tell.
The fitness tracker, I think, is a little oversensitive, because I've noticed a lot of times in my car, it says, "You've met your goal." I was like, wow, I was just sitting here. Yay, me. No. So I think my guess is a little sensitive, but I've never worn it with a Fitbit or anything like that to compare.
Maybe I should steal one of my coworkers' Fitbits just to see. Because, like, every day I've been comparing with our health officer at camp, and he always has, like, twice as many steps as me. And I'm like, oh, well, I am admin staff. But I feel like I should have more than this.
Yeah, well, Fitbits, I think, are notorious for over-tracking as well. So who knows? What's the standard for it? I don't really know.
No idea. It is the Poke tracker thingy.
Oh.
From whichever, what was that, like, Ruby and Sapphire generation where you could transfer a Pokemon over to your pedometer and level it up.
I think I just don't care. This is one thing I got the Pebble. I mean, I wanted to track my steps, but I just don't care enough to spend the equal amount of price on something that's dumber than what I got and looks nicer. So I'm still glad I went with the Pebble, even if it's not as good at tracking my steps.
Yeah. Because it does so much more than that. That's just one bullet point in the list of features. One thing that the fitness tracking does have is, like, the little encouraging messages that it gives you every once in a while. So, like, it'll tell me, "Hey, are you enjoying the great outdoors? You went walking for 23 minutes today. You're a champ." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Pebble." And
my favorite.
It fits so well into the rest of, like, the bouncy, whimsical animations that they have. Even, like, we talked about the notifications where they have the icon that bounces and everything, but like even when you're just going between screens, it kind of has that like kind of cross, like the whole edges of the screen kind of cross over each other, and like everything
It's bright.
it's bright, it's in motion, it's nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fun without being
Childish.
Yeah. I think they did a pretty good job on towing that line.
As for third-party apps for the watch itself, because so far all the apps that we're talking about are apps on the phone that, then you just like receive notifications or things for it, or get, like calendar events in your timeline. But obviously there are apps for the watch itself. And there's several different types. There are watch faces, background apps, timeline apps, and then there are some apps that require like a companion app on the phone.
Yeah.
And those, those aren't like 4 separate categories necessarily. There could be some that do like hit 2 of those or 3 of those categories or whatever. And they like, I've found so far that the ones that I like the most are the ones that have like a companion app on the phone.
I would agree with that. They seem a lot more stable.
Yeah, and
useful.
And yeah, because it's very hard to be able to do a lot of useful stuff without involving the phone.
Right. Because
the phone is the center of my life. So for example, my favorite one is NavMe, which like just detects whenever, like it's kind of the perfect example of what a watch app should be. I shouldn't have to go to the watch app to activate it or perform some action or whatever. It just appears when it's relevant. So when I'm on my phone and I start navigating on Google Maps, NavMe opens up on the watch, and then it just starts showing me what the next turn is going to be and how far away that is. And I think it also tells me what my ETA is for the final destination on that trip. So it's and then once you close out of the navigation on the phone, NavMe disappears. And you don't have to think about it again until the next time that you're navigating.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really nice when you're in a car, because then I don't have to have the screen on my phone. And even then, like, even if I do have the screen on my phone, the phone is all the way down there, like below the dashboard in the cup holder, right?
Right.
Whereas my wrist is already like in my field of vision because it's up there on the wheel. I don't do it one-handed. I do it exactly the way that the instructors taught me, right? Everybody does that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But then it's also like, it's even more important when I'm on a bike, because obviously I don't have the phone screen anywhere in my field of vision. Whereas my wrist is, it's always there.
Yeah. I tried out because according to the interwebs, you're supposed to be able to use the navigation with Google Maps and have it push those, but I couldn't get that to work. So I think.
Oh, just like out of the box without NavMe?
Yeah. You're supposed to be able to change the notification setting to have push.
Oh.
Notifications from Google Maps that are turn by turn.
Okay.
Since it comes up in the notification bar. But it did not work. I only tried it once. And I would definitely agree that it would have been useful, because I was trying to bike here and I have never been here before. So I was pulling out my phone, trying not to hit any cars.
Yeah, before I had this watch, I just kind of would plug in one earbud and then have the phone in my backpack and then like listen for the turn by turns. And usually did a good job of telling me within a reasonable amount of time when I was going to have to turn, but not always.
Yeah. I have my nav muted, so I guess I could have turned it back on. But.
Speaking of muted, I've been both blessed and cursed by the fact that the do not disturb mode on the phone is completely independent of the quiet time on the watch.
Yeah.
So like, it's really nice in like when I'm at school, for example, because I don't want my phone to just like suddenly make noise when I'm up there talking to the class. But it's perfectly okay if my watch buzzes a little bit and vibrates my wrist, because nobody else can feel that. Yeah. I'm the only one. Whereas occasionally if I like lay down for a half-hour nap, I'll remember to put my phone into do not disturb mode. But then there were a couple times where I forgot to put the watch into quiet time. And so I got a buzzing on my wrist while I'm trying to sleep. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
gotta start over.
And I do wish Do Not Disturb would also make the light not turn on when you shake it. I feel like that would make sense, so it would not wake me up when I turned over in my sleep. and then it's just glowing in your face.
Is there like a way through the settings to?
I've never really explored it.
Because I think
I should look.
Because there are ways to set shortcuts on the watch, right? Where you like hold down, if you hold down the like the center button or the up or down button for a couple of seconds from any screen, then it'll do a consistent thing. You might be able to change the backlight settings or something with a shortcut. I don't know.
Yeah, but not during quiet time. So that would be kind of annoying to have to change it.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, like, yeah, the holding down the back button for a few seconds is the default for turning quiet time on and off, right?
Right, but it doesn't change the display. Right.
Yeah. That's kind of a common theme here. Is maybe this thing is possible that we're talking about, but we haven't explored it yet. Yeah. You know, because it's definitely a device for tinkerers. You know, for people who are willing to take a look and see if a thing is possible.
Right.
And then the next level up is, oh yeah, people who are tinkerers who also want to make apps for the watch.
Yes.
And I think the ecosystem is surprisingly robust. I wasn't expecting to see so many useful third-party apps available, especially given that like Pebble doesn't have a built-in way to have paid apps.
Right.
You know, and I was kind of puzzling over why that is. And I think it's just because then they would have to give a 30% cut to Google and or Apple, depending on which device you're on.
Too complicated.
Yeah. Whereas since it's only a third party, like all of the people who make apps for Pebble who want to get paid, they all use the same system, but it's completely independent of Pebble, the company. I forget what it's called. But like, you know, it just sends you off to a web page to pay for it. So they don't have to, you know, pay a cut to Google or Apple.
Sneaky.
Yeah, very. Speaking of... Nope, I don't remember what that segue was going to be. Let's just talk about the next generation.
Okay.
So they have a Kickstarter going right now. It will most certainly be over before the listener hears this episode because it's on its last day as we're recording. 27 hours to go, to be precise. I love the weird timing of all of our recordings of Second Opinion so far, because we always seems to do it like when things are ending. For example, we've got a Windows 10 review coming up sometime soon, and the free period of Windows 10 is ending at the end of next month.
That is excellent timing.
Yep. So the Kickstarter is for the, let's see, they've got several different watches in here, and it's going to get a little confusing. So they've got the Pebble 2 and the Pebble Time 2, and they both have roughly the same capabilities, I believe, except that the Pebble 2 is black and white, and the Pebble Time 2 is colored.
Right. So the Pebble 2 is an upgrade of the Pebble Classic, and it looks pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's similarly bulky to me.
Do you think they just had like a bunch of extra plastic cases lying around that they needed to fill and sell?
It's possible.
Yeah. Well, let's see. And then the new thing that's different is they're introducing the Pebble Core, which is like kind of just a plastic box that doesn't have any interface and no screen. And it's kind of just like a Bluetooth box with a headphone jack that you can do whatever with. So they, you know, I think they're open sourcing both like the software and the hardware of it so that people can just kind of take it apart. And I guess they're trying to capture kind of the same mindset as like the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
But in like a portable form factor.
Yeah, they've kind of branded it two ways, the Pebble Core for runners, so if you don't
oh yeah,
want to do your watch, that's basically what they think it's for. But then the Pebble Core for hackers is more kind of we want to see what you are going to do with this. That's kind of my take on that. Right.
And because the Pebble Core for runners specifically has like a GPS inside it. It can store so much music, and then the idea is that you clip that to your clothes, and then and you use your Pebble watch, which you in theory already have, to control whatever it is that the Pebble Core is doing.
Right. That means you don't have to bring your phone along, but you're still get text messages and other things.
Mm-hmm. And Yeah, I'm not super convinced by it.
Me either.
Because, like, if I want all of that functionality, I would definitely just want a watch that has all of that functionality instead of an extra piece of plastic that I have to clip to myself.
I think hackers will have fun with it because you probably can, since it's so open source. Sure,
Mhm.
I have a button that I can program to do whatever I want. But yeah, I don't really see it as being as useful in the running aspect.
And as for the watches that they are kickstarting here, let's see, the Pebble 2 will be retailing for $129. The Pebble Time 2 will be $200. And that's both of them. So
And the core is $69.
right, yep. Is it $69 if you kickstart it, or so it'll be retailing for $100, the core will. Yep. And those are all coming, I think, in late 2017. So, like, ignoring the fact that you can pre-order them on Kickstarter, because I think pre-ordering them with that much time in between is kind of dumb because you don't know what is going to be out by the time they come out,
Right.
But
right now they've seemed to have married it to Amazon Alexa.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd be curious in the end of 2017 when Google's planning on putting its own contender for Amazon Alexa.
Right, yeah, the Google Home.
Right, as well as Microsoft. So we'll see. I'm wondering whether or not they would maybe open that up a little so it's not so married to one device.
And the other interesting thing about the Alexa tie-in is that actually wasn't there at the beginning of the Kickstarter. They announced that like several days after the Kickstarter started, which was weird. So what are they adding for the Pebble 2 and the Pebble Time 2 that the current generation don't have? From what I can tell, it's pretty much just a heart rate monitor. That's like the major new...
for the watch.
Yeah, that's the major new feature. Neither of them have like... Well, I guess that Pebble Time 2 has 10 days of battery life that they claim, which is... Yeah, that's a few more days than what the Pebble Time has. All these names are getting confusing in my mind already. But like other than that, they still have roughly the same display. They have we already have a microphone on the Pebble Time. They're all water resistant up to 30 meters. I don't think
this one won't talk to you or anything. They haven't added that.
Right, yeah, no, it doesn't have a proper speaker. Oh no, wait, these aren't in 2017. These are shipping this fall.
Oh.
Okay, so that's not so bad.
No.
Okay, cool. But yeah, even so, I don't think that I would buy these over the Pebble Time, especially given that the Pebble Time's prices have like dropped so much.
Yeah, I would definitely just unless you're really married to having your heart rate somewhat sketchily tracked. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of studies about heart rate monitors and how useful they actually are, so I don't know. To me, it's not a big bonus.
Are the studies saying that they are useful or are not?
Not maybe as accurate, because people have worn actual medical heart rate monitors and then tracked it along with, say, the Fitbit one, and it's not something you take to your doctor and be like, look, I'm having heart trouble frequently.
Yeah.
Like, well...
It's not going to tell you if you're in VTAC or anything.
Right, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that we've honestly found kind of the sweet spot of the Pebbles for the next few years. Is the Pebble Time series is probably the best place to slot yourself in.
I think it's definitely a really good watch to get if you just want to know if you are interested in a smartwatch.
That's true.
It's a good stepping stone kind of watch.
It's the gateway drug.
Yeah. I mean, I upgraded to another Pebble, so for me it was fine. But for people who maybe are considering investing in a more expensive Android watch, just kind of knowing, do I like getting notifications on my wrist?
Mm-hmm. I've definitely, part of the reason that I got it was that the timing of the sale that I saw was, I'm going to camp soon. I'm supposed to have a watch or a timekeeping device that isn't my phone when I'm at camp. And I want a smartwatch, but I don't want one that I'm going to be broken up about if I scuff it up and make it look ugly. Yeah. This is perfect. And so far it has been pretty perfect.
Yeah. I don't regret purchasing either one.
I do regret that the comment that I get most often when I'm fiddling with my smartwatch is that the Apple Watch?
I get it too, even though it
round.
doesn't look at anything like the Apple Watch.
That's so funny.
Sure, no. And I used to get that about the old Pebble, which was far uglier than the Apple Watch.
Oh man. I do have to say before we go, one thing that we haven't mentioned at all is gaming on a watch.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I know. I had the same initial reaction to the subject, and then I was reading like an extended article piece on Polygon about like the history of gaming on watches and the present and like what the future is going to look like, and I was like, and they kept talking about Pixel Miner on the Pebble, and I'm like, okay, so that's like the most popular game on the Pebble. I guess I should try it out at least once just to say, that I've tried it. I was not impressed by it.
Really? Yeah.
No.
I haven't tried any because it just seemed like, why would I want to sit there and basically you have to take up two hands to play a game on a tiny screen.
Yeah.
When I could just use my phone, which is far better resolution and much more interesting games.
It would have to be something that, like, similar to NavMe, it only appears when it's relevant, right? It's not something that I go and seek out the game. The game comes to me.
Comes to you.
Yeah. And there are a couple of experiences that have been made on smartwatches, such as I think there was like the Martian tie-in game where it like brings like fake notifications to you every once in a while of like the astronaut asking for your advice on like this new problem that he's encountered. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure game that the choices appear periodically kind of thing.
Or maybe something like Space Team.
Oh my god.
If they made something like Space Team for a group of nerds with their watches.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like that might be doable.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Of course, with Space Team, that's the game that caused me to crack the screen on my tablet last semester. But that's fine. Although, actually, speaking of damaging your products due to a game, Pixel Miner actually made one of my buttons kind of a little bit mushy now.
Oh, well, guess who's not going to try that anymore?
Yeah, no. Because like one of the mechanics, other than like buying upgrades every once in a while when you have enough money for it, if you go to the game and you start clicking a button, he'll mine twice as fast as he was before. And then if you stop clicking within like a second, he goes back down to his base speed. And it's like, okay, you got to constantly click. And so I was using the down button for clicking that all the time. And it is noticeably less clicky now than my other buttons, which has me a little bit concerned.
Yeah, if you could interact with the watch, I think with other people, it would be more fun. Like WarioWare, that's not what it was called. That game was like 20-second games where you had to like shake the Wiimote to do certain silly actions.
Okay.
Stuff like that where it would be more creative. I feel like games like that would be the only things that would work on a watch.
And I think the Pebble doesn't really have enough connectivity possibilities for that to really be... I mean, it would have to have a companion app on the phone for it to really work.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's possible.
You can tell your students to try to work on that.
Oh yeah, there we go. Their experience with Game Maker will definitely help in this field. Oh man. But yeah, I'm pretty positive on the Pebble Time. I think it was a good purchase. I'm gonna be happy with it for quite a few years.
I hope I will be as well, although I do like new things, so maybe the Pebble 4 will convince me to switch.
Yeah, the Pebble 4 that'll actually be called the Pebble 3 because the third Pebble is called the Pebble 2.
Oh dang. Yeah.
That's one thing that's never ever good is the naming scheme.
Yeah, people like to give up somewhere around 7 too. Or like Android Nexuses would switch from referring to 1, 2, and 3, and then they started referring to screen size. Mm-hmm. It's confusing. And
so now they're using letters to denote different Nexus 5s.
So just stick with it, people.
All right. So, listener, if you have any feedback for us on this episode, go ahead and click that contact button. It's right below our faces on the show notes page, which once again is thenexus.tv/SO7. And also, if you have any topics, any things that you want us to review, or if you have experience with something that you want to review for us, drop us a line at that contact button again. I'm Ian R. Buck. You can find me on Twitter as Ian R. Buck. And if you're interested in other things that I make, go and check out ianrbuck.com, because that's where I have links to everything. How about you, Betsy? Where can people find you on the internet?
I'm not in very many places, so find me on Instagram.
There we go.
Yeah, or Twitter, but I don't ever use it unless I That's about it.
That's a pretty legit use for Twitter.
Yeah.
Shaming companies publicly.